What screams, I'm not doing so well mentally? Story 1. I can't motivate myself to do simple things around the house that I actually never mind doing when I'm feeling okay. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to answer the phone. I don't want to participate in any activities. I just want time to stand still. Story 2. My business math teacher used to come to school looking like he got dressed under his desk. One morning I will never forget, he wore 2 different shoes, black dressed shoe and light brown shoe, which also were the wrong sides also. Left foot, right shoe, left foot. Half-tucked shirt, bed hair, and like a liquid stain on the neck of his shirt. His excuse for looking like that? I got dressed in the dark this morning and I picked up the wrong shoes and accidentally grabbed a dirty shirt. As a teenager, I just thought, he's a messy person. But as I got older, I believe he went through a bad divorce and he didn't take it so well. I still think about him and wonder what really happened. Story 3. Rapid weight loss, gain, or similar physical changes, for example, messy appearance, poor hygiene, etc., are obvious. Less obvious, being late more often than usual, especially if in the morning, indicates excessive sleeping, constantly tired, zoning out frequently. They don't add anything to conversations. Just listen and nod to whatever's being said. Talking less than usual, difficult to make plans with, often canceling and/or first to leave in group plans. Bloodshot eyes, puffy face, etc. all indicate they've been crying recently. Story 4. For me, it's when my house becomes dirty and unorganized. My dishes start to pile up. My dirty laundry is left on the floor. Trash can is doing a balancing act. Normally I'm on top of all these things daily and weekly. But sometimes I can tell that a depressive episode is just around the corner based on the state of my home. Story 5. I can't be out in public without having my anxiety maxed. Can't focus. Short temper. Lost 60 pounds and don't really eat anymore. Hygiene isn't affected if you don't count shaving. Story 6. Glued on their phone. That's my hint that I'm trying to dissociate. I also rub behind my ears mindlessly when I do the phone thing, often causing rawness similar to scalp pickers. But it's just behind my ears, only not my entire scalp. I tell my hairdresser it's eczema, so she doesn't think I'm a freak. I'm actually doing it now, which is why my account is new, yet I have decent karma. I spend like 18 hours a day commenting on Reddit posts to numb me. The odd thing is my life is good. I'm just a wimp, or maybe undiagnosed neurodivergent, one of the two. Story 7. I try to explain to my family that this depression is the worst one yet. I don't shower. I don't brush my teeth. I wear a nightdress for days at a time. I have no interest in keeping my house clean or washing a dish. I have OCD and I can't even clean anything to soothe myself. Story 8. Very few observable signs mentioned here, so I will list some. 1. Drastic weight gain or loss. If you see someone and think they're really letting themselves go, it's probably mental and not physical. 2. Drastic change in appearance. Did they shave their head? Did they stop shaving and their beard looks messy? Do they look stressed out? 3. Change in hygiene. Did they stop brushing their teeth? Do you notice lots of dandruff on someone who would normally be meticulous? 4. Higher hurdle for humor. Is it harder to make this person laugh? Does this person not joke around anymore? Generally speaking, a healthy person has their she-I-T together. Good hygiene, well-dressed, works hard on their goals, is social with friends and family. A person can be suffering inside and that might not cross the threshold into depression, but that doesn't mean they're not suffering. And how they feel inside will express itself on the outside, and it usually comes across as suspiciously off, like something feels wrong, but you don't know what it is. And that's because people often put on a public face to conceal their problems. Story 9. I cry a lot at night and pick at my fingernails to the point where all my fingertips are bleeding. Oh, and I have a bunch of broken/cracked/missing teeth. Not visible ones yet, luckily. I did, however, recently, like a week ago, pick up new glasses to replace the broken old ones I'd been wearing and hating for the last year. I'm trying to work my way out of this. Story 10. I do the things I need to do. Wake up, shower, go to work, clean the house, do yard work, eat supper, shower, go to bed. Weekends, I just lay on the couch and do nothing. I cannot stand the general public. One of my favorite hobbies was fishing hunting, which is not possible anymore. People are everywhere where I used to go, and they have zero etiquette, which has ruined it for me. Story 11. An unhealthy obsession with childlike things. I'll admit I enjoy having my collection of action figures in my home office on the shelf, but I dated a girl once who I genuinely think had some serious demons. Was obsessed with little girl things despite being an adult. Barbie dolls, preschool TV shows, coloring books, plushies, etc. Could not handle working a real job or school. Cut things off, and looking back, I'm starting to realize what some of those warning signs are, especially after watching that episode of Morel Orel. Story 12. Excuses. This one can be a little iffy, though. I'm not talking about the people who make excuses so they can shove the work off into someone else and go back to what they were doing. I'm talking about the people who you can tell want to do something, but keep making excuses to not. They want to go to that movie with you, but they got bad sleep and are very tired for the 20th time that month. They want to clean the kitchen, but standing long enough to do that actually is too hard for them to manage. Story 13. Googling most lethal method of suicide, and then Googling DIY pipe shotgun, and then making a DIY 12GA shotgun from plumbing parts ordered from Amazon, and low recoil 00 buckshot from an online sporting goods store, and then Googling firearm suicide survival, and then Googling brain anatomy tomography, and then Googling MRI volunteer, and then volunteering for a free MRI study with contrast, and then asking for your DICOM data with the free $100 for participating, and then using the data to find skull landmarks to visualize the projectile trajectory, and then putting everything into a box in the trunk of your '97 Camry, to think about how you have less than a year left on your term life insurance, and that any new policy would start the clock on the 2YR contestability period. Yeah, someone doing that is not doing well. Story 14. Lack of grooming/bathing/brushing hair and teeth laundry. But it's really different for everyone what their early warning signs are. Becoming reclusive, preferring to be alone. Changing eating/drinking/substance use behaviors, disconnect from emotions. Why do anything attitude? Story 15. Not changing when I get home. I'm military, and when I get home, change out of the blouse and pants but leave on the undershirt. That's when I realize I gotta do something. It isn't an issue if it was one long day, but when I realize almost everything in my laundry is military clothes and like 2 days of workout clothes for the weekends, I realize I have to force myself to do something and see people. Story 16. I have a classmate who I feel is not well mentally. Sometimes she gives me small hits, insults me, or yells at me in the middle of class. He doesn't care which teacher is teaching, who is listening, etc. She told him a secret hoping she would keep it private, but she always goes around shouting that secret to humiliate me in front of others. Story 17. A huge sign of loneliness is how thankful the person is about everything. Chronically lonely people lack love and have really bad self-esteem, so that if you say something nice to them, they actually feel cared for. But more importantly, they feel like somebody who has the ability to be cared for. Story 18. A complete inability to find joy in anything. Considering the hassle of basic events, going to a concert, for example, to eclipse any enjoyment of the event itself. Selling off personal items and hobby-related goods because you simply cannot be bothered. Being convinced, generally through experience, that very few people, if anyone, give a shit about you or even want to associate with you. Being incapable of getting over failures or mistakes. Listening to that internal voice that tells you what a fuck up you are and how nothing is going to ultimately work out in your favor, even if this is objectively inaccurate. Story 19. Slightest mess up in my daily routine triggers anxiety in me. It's horrific to the point my hands start shaking and I start throwing tantrums. I'm scared of myself sometimes. I've been consistent with waking up at 4 a.m. since the start of this year. But these past few days I've not been able to maintain the consistency. I've been waking up at 6, 7, or even 8 a.m. Some might think that it's still early, but note that for me it's not, because I'm preparing for an important exam. So I end up feeling like crap and curse myself for being lazy. It's insane. Story 20. Hygiene falling apart. At my worst, I stopped brushing my teeth. Showers became 1+ week between. Shaving was 1+ a month. Clothes didn't get changed, etc. Messiness was also another one. Stuff just piles up over time. I did a good job of keeping food and drinks out of my space, but everything piled up high to the point where I had a path to my bed and computer, and that was it. My closet was absolutely overflowing with unfinished projects and stuff I wanted to save that ultimately went into the garbage. Irregular eating was another one. Sometimes I'd be skipping meals, other times I was engorging myself. Lack of interest in things was another one. I'd spend more time staring at my video games than actually playing them. I wanted to play them, but I also didn't want to play them. Story 21. Consistent job hopping. I don't mean strategic hopping for more money, but to avoid problems/people/HR. Social awkwardness. I'm not actually socially awkward, but I do have PTSD. Easy to confuse the two. I also have serious memory issues. Like, I can live a whole day and forget what I did until a few days later. It's like that day never happened, even if it wasn't necessarily traumatic. Some people associate it with alcoholism, but it's poor mental health. Alcoholism. I've had bosses and coworkers encourage my borderline alcoholism because it got me out the house. I only drank to drink, and any interaction was to avoid looking too weird out of place. Even socializing just to say you met someone to get people off your back. It could be getting a number just to have one in your phone or listening to someone tell a story to pretend you had a deep conversation. Story 22, just not being able to keep up with the little things each day. Breakfast slips from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. to 11. Then either I have breakfast for lunch or I skip it altogether. Lunch slips to 2, then 3, then 4. Rinse and repeat until it's 9 p.m., and I've had maybe one meal all day. Doing the dishes is an achievement. Doing the laundry is an achievement. I couldn't possibly do both in one day. I don't have the energy to shower one night, then 2, then 3. I feel exhausted, but the later it gets at night, the less I want to sleep, and when I try to sleep, I can't. It feels like if you can stay up late enough, you can stop tomorrow from coming, or like nighttime is the only time you really have to yourself, or without having to deal with the rest of the world. Story 23. My friend came to me one day, yesterday, and told me, "I know you're going through something with yourself." I did not tell anyone anything whatsoever, so I asked him how TF you know. He replied, "Buddy, you're always smiling, making jokes with us, and when you play games it's like a tournament, but I see you now always zoned out. You only act normal when we call you or ask you something and then turn away and the smile fade away with it. You always sit in your phone like you're searching for an answer to something. I know, and whatever going through your head I can help if you let me. It can be very obvious when you're struggling mentally if you change how you behave even a little bit." Story 24. Feeling like shit lately, so I decided to log on to my therapist's patient portal and schedule. After our last session, she gave me a couple questionnaires to fill out. Apparently, I have generalized anxiety disorder and am in the middle of a depressive episode. And I find it funny? Like, ha, I was built to suffer and the world is heating up. What exactly is the problem here? Sounds like business as usual, buddy. It's so funny to me that things are apparently supposed to be different. How could that ever be the case? I can't imagine a life that isn't a constant struggle, and even trying just tickles my sense of absurdity. Story 25. I'm diagnosed bipolar and clinical depression. When I'm depressed, I don't contact anyone, and I don't like it when anyone contacts me. I won't answer the phone and will only send a text to say I'm still alive, but need some time to myself. When I'm heading into a manic phase, I talk too much and spend way too much money on shit I don't need. Those close to me usually recognize it before I do. Story 26. Lately getting caught up in the rage bait. Some people get very taken in, basically brainwashed, by the rage that is getting sold to them for profit. They start pimping it out via their socials to anyone will listen. I've lost friends to it. An acquaintance said that the biggest risk to her marriage was when her husband retired and started watching Fox News all day and started turning into a rage pimper. She made him stop. Story 27. Watch out for your funny friends. Excessive dark jokes, addiction issues, constant dissociation through humor. Funny people are sad people, or were sad for a long time, and now they are doing better. Just check in on the stress levels. Ask when they ate or slept last. For younger people, make sure you build up your funny friends too, and don't just treat them like a clown. Story 28. Most people, if you just listen to words, aren't doing too well. I'm not the oldest, only 35, but I've been around the block a time or two. The ones you really want to notice aren't the ones who regularly ask for help or vague post. They aren't the ones going on and on and on about how lonely they are, how no one loves them, how their friends wish they were with other friends, etc., etc. Those people are just hurting, but will almost always not act on it. In my experiences, it's the ones where you can tell something is up, but they never hedge. Don't sweat it. I'm cool, just thinking. Nah, I'm good, don't worry. Or the tried and true, just leave me alone. Mental anguish comes in stages. When someone is at the point where they stop/don't talk about it as well as push people away, they're at that danger zone. They'll either do something drastic or slowly recover. If you see them later and they seem all happy-go-lucky and talkative, at peace with life, it's already too late. Story 29. I get up, then all day I'm tired and I want to take a nap all day. I have no motivation. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to work. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to hang out with anyone. I don't want to watch TV. I don't want to read a book. I don't want to even go on my phone. But also, I'm bored. I don't care about anything. Story 30. Let's see, I'll actually just nab what other people say that describes my whole existence. I can't motivate myself to do simple things around the house. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to answer the phone. I don't want to participate in any activities. I just want time to stand still. Reading this thread with the intent of finding traits about yourself is a pretty big one. Not wanting to be alive, but not wanting to be dead. Just wanting to be nowhere. Be in a dark void with no emotions to feel. Being late more often than usual, especially if in the morning, indicates excessive sleeping. Constantly tired. Zoning out frequently. They don't add anything to conversations. Just listen and nod to whatever's being said. Talking less than usual. Difficult to make plans with, often canceling and/or first to leave in group plans. Dirty kitchen. I manage to shower quite nearly every day and regret not making time after only one day when it does happen, maybe once a month. I'm literally addicted in the substance abuse dependence sense to food and sugar for feel good. Story 31. If anyone reading this threads gets this far, I recently saw my family doctor about this. I get mentally exhausted really easily. I've been socially withdrawn since the pandemic, apart from work, TV, movies, and scrolling through Reddit. Waiting on some tests, but the doctor recommended I join a group fitness class/activity. Also forced myself to go to a local meetup of electronic music makers and synth enjoyers. Story 32. Lifeless eyes, dull voice. They don't show interest on anything. They don't know and don't care about current topics. And they aren't interested on interacting with anyone. They have a never-ending supply of, it is what it is, I guess. Give them a nostalgia ticket by talking about something from their past, and you can feel their eyes and voice coming back to life. They are more than happy to talk about that something and anything they can relate to that. People they knew, places they used to go, things they used to do, TV shows they used to watch, music they used to listen, food they used to eat. They'll happily talk about all that. And how these things were so great. Then they finish it with a good times, and their eyes dull out, the smile slowly vanishes, the sadness come back, and they're back to their silent poker face. Story 33. Honestly, a lot of the time they usually do, themselves, either literally or figuratively. I remember someone noted the fairly sad music I was listening to in that moment, and they asked me, "Dude, are you okay?" And I asked them, "Do you really want to know?" And they said no. Friends ask me all the time how I am doing, and I always pause for a second and then say, okay. Someone asked me about that once, and I told them, I'm just pondering whether or not I am going to tell you the truth. They said, oh, all right, and that was that. I just don't bother anymore. I'm not always a Debbie Downer pity party thrower either, but all of this has been pretty recent. Death of my best friend, stress of college, depression relapse, it's just been fucked. No one really seems to want to know. Only person that does is the one I pay every week. IKK. I get most of the time it's just a friendly gesture, but some of these people are my so-called friends. I've found that most people actually don't give a shit, nor want to be inconvenienced by your trivial woes. But if you watch long enough and observe closely enough, it's obvious, I think. Changes in how they act, hygiene, social withdrawal. Story 34. Change in sleep patterns, lack of self-care, decreased interest in hobbies, self-isolation, social and/or generalized anxiety, eating a lot or very little, increased drinking/drug use, executive dysfunction, negative self-talk, racing, obtrusive and/or obsessive thoughts or behaviors. I could go on and on. Bottom line is, if you notice that you're having a tough time doing the things that caused very little or no problems previously, you should talk to someone. No shame in that game. Situational mental health issues are a big deal, just like chronic mental health issues. Always best to seek help earlier, rather than later. Story 35. For me, it's the state of my house. My house is always immaculate. I am constantly picking up after myself, spot cleaning things I notice that aren't to my liking, and everything is in its place unless I am using it. If my house is dirty, I'm depressed. I saw a therapist and he thinks that keeping my environment clean and tidy is a way of having some control over my life. I think he may be correct. Edit, mobile formatting.